Hello, I'm Alan Pickard, and this is an introduction to a new series which I'm going to produce on the subject of Charles Dickens. That is specifically about reading Charles Dickens and his 15 novels. I only have read 9 of these quite deliberately because the other 6 I am not very interested in. They don't have any particular appeal to me, but the ones that I have read, I have reread and I will reread again. But the reason for the series is to try and persuade people who have an interest in Charles Dickens' works and feel maybe they can't read them because they haven't got time or they think they'll be too heavy and so on. So I'm going to do an episode on each of the 9 novels which are my preferences and talk about them briefly and hope that the viewers will be inspired to give one or more of the novels a try. If people watching the series get interested in one or more, and in fact they end up reading all 9 of the ones I've suggested, there's nothing stopping them looking at the others as well. It is a matter of personal taste, but these are just firm favourites of mine. So I will speak briefly about what I'm going to do in this series shortly, and then hopefully you will be interested enough to read some of these novels and have a look at further episodes in this series. So we'll see how it goes. This is a list of the 15 novels of Charles Dickens. They are listed in chronological order, but the 9 novels printed in bold are the ones which are my favourites, to the exclusion of the other 6. They are in chronological order, but the order in which I read them began with Great Expectations, which I saw in my teens, having seen a television serialisation. I've since read this again and would reread it at a later date. Oliver Twist was the next one, much later, possibly in my 30s, and my first experience was probably the musical Oliver. I've since read Oliver Twist 3 times in total and would read it again. Nicholas Nickleby I first came across as a televised stage version by the Royal Shakespeare Company, and I also saw a couple of films after that. I've read this book twice and would probably read it again. Bleak House was quite an undertaking of some 900 pages, but followed watching a BBC television series. I've since read this book twice and would happily read it again. Little Dorrit was a similar experience which I have read and intend reading again. David Copperfield was always considered to be of no interest, even though I had seen a television series as a child. A few years ago I saw a film version which I didn't like, but I came across a BBC series which I thought was very good and resulted in me reading the book. Again, I would reread this. Our Mutual Friend I had no knowledge of, but I acquired a DVD version, enjoyed it, and then read the book. Again, I intend rereading. Martin Chuzzlewit I enjoyed after watching a television series, and I would probably reread it at some point. The Old Curiosity Shop I remember as a television series many, many years ago, but I obtained a feature film version which I then followed by reading and enjoying the novel. As well as extensive rereading in the future, I would also enjoy watching again most or all of the video recordings. Dickens wrote several novels, and in fact several long novels, but in those novels there were many plots and subplots, but also many, many characters, and he must have created hundreds of individual characters across all of his books. And this picture illustrates this very well. I like this particular version because it's aesthetically pleasing. It's the colours are very pleasant and so on. But the second picture is similar, obviously, but it has got more characters on show, if you like, and I think that it is much more interesting and fascinating to show how Dickens would have sat in his study or wherever he was writing, creating all these complex stories and complex characters. And at the end of his life, he had simply created a great number of individual characters. In the next video, I'm going to talk about Oliver Twist, which is a particular favourite of mine, and I would say a good introduction to someone who would like to make a start on trying out reading the novels of Charles Dickens.